Hey guys, it's Index. I've never made a video like this before, but I think with all my experience in FPS games, I thought I'd share some tips and tricks on how to improve your aim in FPS games. In this video, I will be going over 7 things. 1. Mouse acceleration. 2. Mouses and polling rates. 3. Peripherals. 4. Your dexterity. 5. Angle and target snapping. 6. Sensitivity, crossovers, and lastly consistency in the mental process behind staying consistent. In the background, I'll be playing some just random footage from various games on my hard drive. So, let's get started. And starting off, we have mouse acceleration. Mouse acceleration, what it is essentially is when you move your cursor in distance and in speed, depending on how fast and the distance you move, will actually gain acceleration, which makes it not 1-1, so there is no muscle memory to be learnt from mouse acceleration. Mouse acceleration was a huge thing in old school games. It was used mainly to combat the 125Hz compatibility and screen tearing on early LCD monitors back in games like Counter-Strike 1.6 and free-to-play games like Crossfire, AVA, Combat Arms and all that. Mouse acceleration in this day and age of mouses and the sensors and all that is not ideal, but you can still play with mouse acceleration if you're used to it. There's other applications that I've been shown that can make real-time acceleration actually beneficial. I might make a video on that in the future, but for most people there is no need to have acceleration at this point in time. So how do you know if you have acceleration? Simple thing is to go into a game and use your mousepad and do a full swipe across left to right on your mousepad and then go back from right to left, and you should land in the same position. Or if you haven't landed in the same position or close to the same position, you have either mouse accel turned on or you have a thing called mouse decel. The easiest way to see if you have basic mouse accel turned on in Windows is to go to your search bar and search mouse pointer settings and then go to the mouse properties, and at the top you'll see there's a sliding bar with 11 notches and there's a box called enable pointer precision. The first thing you want to do is turn the pointer precision off, and you want to make sure that the notches are set at 611. 611, so 6 notches out of 11. Just count the notches and then move it to 6, and that's the first step of getting rid of acceleration in Windows. There's a second part to this called Mark C's mouse acceleration fix. This is a regedit style mouse acceleration fix, which is not that useful on Windows 10, but Windows 7 and Windows 8 and Vista and even XP, this is very useful. You can still use this on Windows 10, but I don't see any benefit to doing it because I've tested with and without it and I don't see a difference. But if you really want to, you can do it. Easiest way is to go to Mark C's website. I'll post it in the description. Download the pack, open it up, go to the operating system folder that you have, and then you'll see a whole bunch of regedit files with the scaling fonts or the percentages. The easiest way to do that is right click on your desktop, go to display, and then you'll see at the bottom as a scaling font, and whatever that percentage is, most people should be defaulted to 100%. Find the 100% in the folder, double tap that. It might ask you to run as admin since it's a registry editing file. You add that to the registry and you basically restart your computer and mouse acceleration is completely gone. And that's basically it. And now we have the mouses and the polling rates, and this is pretty straightforward. So there's 3 types of groups or 3 types of mouses that you can actually buy. So one is the ambidextrous mouse, which is a longer mouse designed for claw gripping, which is a type of grip that a lot of people seem to use, including myself. Their ambidextrous mouses are usually longer in size and light, and then you have ergo mouses, which are quite relatively small, which is like a lot of the new Logitech mouses, and they're designed for either palm gripping or finger gripping. And then you have the hybrid ambi mouses, which are basically ambidextrous mouses with the ergo style grip. So you know, you have to look at the way that you hold your mouse and figure out which mouse would suit you best. So for my instance, I basically claw grip, so I use nothing but ambidextrous mouses. So at the moment I'm running a Zowie FK2 and I love this mouse to death, and I highly recommend people getting the FK2. Yeah. Okay, for polling rates now. Polling rates are easy. So you have to look up your mouse online and see what its stable polling rate is. So I'm using an FK2, and I know for a fact that the FK2 is very stable at 1000 polling rate, so I'm going to take advantage of that 1000 polling rate. Polling rates usually come in 3 increments of 125, 500 and 1000. 1000 being 1 millisecond, 500 being 2 milliseconds, and 125 being 6 milliseconds. The problem with 125 is it's not supported like it used to be back in the day, so most people are stuck with 500 or 1000, which are two very standard polling rates, which each have their own ups and downs. 500 being more consistent but has a smaller millisecond response time, and 1000 being the highest at 1 millisecond response time. But if you have a low end CPU, 1000 is probably not ideal. How to check that? You can just go online to Zowe's polling rate checker and use the web based client to check your polling rate. You don't need a Zowe mouse to do this, it works for all mouses, so I highly recommend just going there and checking that, and that's pretty much it. I recommend 1000 if you can do it and your mouse is stable at 1000 and your CPU is fairly decent. I recommend doing it, so that's my advice. Okay, so next we have peripherals, and this is fairly straightforward. Peripherals being mouse pads and bungees for your mouse. I highly recommend getting a QCK Plus soft pad. It's a rather massive cloth mouse pad which has great tracking in almost every mouse. I have never had a problem. I've used many mouses in the past and I have not had one malfunction on the plain black QCK Plus cloth pad. I did have a Navi custom QCK, which I had a lot of problems with the sensor bugging out because of the colors. So if you are really into getting some custom looking QCK, you got to take into the factor that it may bug out certain sensors on certain mouses. But if you want to play it safe, a plain color like black always does the trick, and basically that's it. For bungees are just used for the cord, so if you have a mouse and the cord just keeps getting in the way or it keeps curling up or something, you can get a bungee, and that'll keep the mouse cord always straight, so you'll never have any consistency problems, or you never move your mouse up on top of the cord or whatever the problem is. Or you can just use some tape and just tape it down to the table, but there's not much really to say about peripherals, but that's basically it. So QCK Plus cloth pad in the plain black is my ideal cloth pad, or you could use one of the Zowe mouse pads. I've heard they're pretty good, but for a long time I've been rocking with the SteelSeries QCK Plus, and yeah, I've never changed. So that's about it for the peripherals. So next is dexterity. Dexterity just means how you can handle certain sensitivities, because some people can just not use high sensitivities to save their life. I can use high sensitivities. I play extremely high sensitivities on video games. For example, on Battlefield 4, I play 61% in-game sensitivity at 400 DPI. CSGO, I play 4.6 at 400 DPI. And Quake Champions, I played 9.6 at 400 DPI, which is extremely high. I don't recommend a lot of people using the sensitivity unless you actually can use the sensitivity. It all comes down to your genetics, I guess you could say. Some people just can't use high sensitivity, and you should never force yourself to use a high sensitivity if you can't control it yourself. The best way of testing your dexterity is that you can do dexterity tests online, but the easiest way is just playing a game and forcing yourself to use a very high sensitivity and see how you do compared to using a very low sensitivity, and you make the middle ground. So if you play okay on a low sensitivity, like really good on a really low sensitivity, and then you play on a really high sensitivity and you can't do it, you find the middle ground. And if you play really well on that, you lower it again to see how low you can go before it gets annoying, and then you raise it again, and you just keep finding the middle ground until you hit that perfect spot. The average player in Battlefield 4 plays about 10 to 15% in-game sensitivity on 400 DPI, but I play on 61, so I'm just very used to playing high sensitivity because of Quake and a lot of other games I played many years ago. And yeah, you can't force yourself to use high sensitivity. So if you use high sensitivity and you don't like it, just don't do it. It will just alter your gameplay, and you will just never improve, and you'll just think it's just, other people, or not blame yourself. It's not the way to go. So easiest way to do it, find the middle ground and stick with the sensitivity and stick with it. Don't think it's always your sensitivity that's messing you. Find something that's comfortable and never change. get used to that sensitivity. As long as it's comfortable from the beginning, you'll start building your muscle memory over time, and the muscle memory will actually start showing when you start target switching, which I'm about to talk about, and angle snapping comes into account as well as game sense and all that other stuff. So just find the middle ground and stick with the sensitivity. I can't stress that enough, and that's basically it for dexterity. Okay, now we're going to talk about angle and target snapping. Target snapping is something that you can learn. So you master a sensitivity and you build muscle memory to it, and over time you'll start noticing you're switching to players without even overthinking it. It just becomes second nature, and your muscle memory will automatically do it. You find the best way to train target snapping, or target switching, I guess you could say, is to force yourself to switch targets really quick. The best way I found to do that very, very, very long time ago in 1.6, there was a map called Eco Slaw. It was very popular in Source as well, but there was a version in 1.6 that really helped me out with this. It forces you to flick really quickly. So what you do to work on your target snapping, to say, is to practice on bots, practice on things that it doesn't matter. So deathmatch on CS or a bot server on CS is a good example. You find the sensitivity that you like and you practice flicking onto players until it becomes muscle memory. The clip I'm showing is not ultimately the greatest example. I am failing a lot of the shots I'm hitting, mainly because this was recorded at 7 AM when I was making this video. I only just woke up, I didn't have a coffee or anything, so I just used whatever I wanted because I didn't feel like recording anymore. So for angle snapping though, angle snapping is basically a term in a game when you know the map or get your map knowledge and you can snap onto angles over time. CS is a good example. Over time you play the same angles and over, muscle memory kicks in and you can put your crosshair to certain angles without thinking about it. It's not so prevalent in games like Battlefield, but in Counter-Strike and games like that, it's very, very useful to be able to snap onto angles. It's just what it is. So the best way to practice is just flicking onto bots on CS, or on Battlefield you can just play the actual game, I guess you could say, and you can practice that way, and over time your muscle memory will build and you'll start noticing you're doing it really well, and you stick with it and you work on your game style in game as well, and that also is a big factor. So the way you play the game also helps, so game sense is also a big thing, and that's basically it for that. And yeah. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the last 2 points very briefly, as there's not much to say about these. Sensitivity, crossovers, and consistency in the mental process of staying consistent. So I'll start on the sensitivity crossovers. When I talk about sensitivity crossovers, I'm talking about converting your sensitivity from one game to another. There's many ways you can do this. The best way I found is using mousesensitivity.com and buying Pro for, I think it's €2 a month, and you can basically convert your sensitivity over to a different game with the calculator. It works out the cm or the inches per 360 to get a rough sort of sensitivity in the game that you're trying to convert it to. But you got to always keep in mind that if you're converting one game on a different engine to another game on a different engine, it might feel different and it's not always 100% accurate. That's when you got to make your own minor adjustments to make it feel right. So for example, if you were converting your Battlefield sense to say something like Counter-Strike, you're converting it from the Frostbite engine to the Half-Life engine, the Half-Life 2 engine. So it has a different feel, but you just tweak around and you'll find, you adjust it and it'll work out perfectly in the end. So but that's, it gets you roughly started on the sensitivities to make it feel right. So that's just how you get your sensitivity over different games. Now for consistency and staying consistent, I've had a lot of problems in the past with consistency. I find my biggest problem with consistency is when I get upset or mad at something, like say something stupid happens to me in an ESEA pug in CS, and I get really, really upset that I died to something that shouldn't have happened, like a running deagle by some 6RWS idiot or something like that. Stuff that shouldn't happen, but it does. The thing that I figured out over time is when you don't get mad at it is when you perform better. As soon as you start getting mad over the smallest things, you will start seeing yourself drop off. Not always. I'm not saying if you get mad that you're going to be the worst player in history. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you progressively get mad, mentally you start to suffer. So you overthink things, or you're clouded by judgment of anger and you don't think something, or someone does something that's correct. Say they push out A on Mirage with executed smokes and they push it properly inside that state of yours, or you die somehow by not focusing and you get pinched or something, you're not paying attention, you always try and find a reason to blame them even if they did everything right and they didn't play it like a retard. You gotta contain yourself and always think positively. So if some guy in, say, Battlefield 4 lockers 320s you or shotguns you, like you cap him 5 shots in the chest and he's 2 health and he 1-pumps you with a shotgun, the best thing you can do is just go, well, he was just a better player, and you move on. You don't get mad, you don't feed them, you don't type in the chat. That's the one thing that used to get me on a lot of games. I used to retaliate and get really mad, and the more mad you get, I found that the more you underperformed. So you always got to keep a clear head. Also, if you play with people that all they do is complain and rage and get mad at a video game, you'll slowly see yourself declining, and you won't notice it, but over time you'll start becoming the same person that you're playing with. So if someone around you is consistently raging all the time, it'll bring you down and your team down if it's team environment, and over time you'll become exactly the same without even realizing, because it's second nature. And that's basically all I've got to say about it. But the best way to stay consistent in a video game is to always keep a cool head. If possible, sometimes you can't help it and you just get angry. That's when you need to put the game down and stop. Another way is to take breaks and not overdo it. So, for example, on Counter-Strike, if you're playing 6 pugs in a row and you're just getting madder and madder and madder, just stop playing and come back in a couple of hours with a cool head, and you'll start playing much better. Go get something to eat, go for a walk, go for a shower, do something. You got to keep your mind off it and keep your head clear, and over time you'll start seeing yourself perform much better. And I think that's pretty much it for the video. I'd really appreciate a like on this video. I spent a lot of time compiling all this stuff together and getting it ready, and I think this video is going to be almost 20 minutes long. So if you appreciate it, just press the like button and subscribe if you want. Well, you don't have to subscribe if you don't want to, but I'd appreciate it. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, enjoy.